Hello.
I'm Summer.
I'm Janice.
I'm Dee.
I'm Kevin.
And this is
Written
Written Together.
Every season, we work collaboratively to tell a different story.
Each episode of the season, one of us extends the story from where the last person left off.
The rest of us don't know what's in store, so it's an adventure for everyone. It's like that old cartoon with Daffy Duck. And mine, down, back.
So join us for fun,
For mystery,
Creativity, but most of all,
to be delighted by stories written together.
Janice, are you using your mic or are you using
I'm using the same mic. I was a little farther away from it. Do I need to get closer?
That'd be great. Yes, please.
Close to you.
Smoldering temptress.
I haven't seen that movie in ages. We're not going to name it because, we don't want to, copyright infringement or anything.
Right.
That's all I need is Baz Luhrmann coming after me.
Right. All right. Well, I guess we should get started now. 10 minutes in. Howdy'do Campers. Welcome to another thrilling adventure of Written Together. So I have a funny feeling, everybody, that today is going to be extra special. Yeah, I really do. I think today's going to be extra special. We've got Janice giving us the next segment of our episodic soap opera. These are the sins of our spirits. No.
Wow.
So now Janice, everybody else, Janice texted me a little while ago and told me that it was going to be a little longer than usual. So just for the haps, because I have a limit on how much I record, we may end up having to stop and pick up in a second recording. Just giving you all the heads up that might have to happen. But I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have written, Janice. It's going to be great.
I'm a little nervous because I tried to tie up everything and see if maybe this could be the last episode.
Oh, really?
Surprise. Kill surprise. But we can see how we feel about it at the end. My big disclaimer, just in case everyone's like, oh my God, I hate it. We need to do something else toward the end to finalize everything. But
yeah, this is a group that would actually say we hate something like out loud.
yeah,
like
you're
that.
right.
Oh yeah, we
right.
hated it. We hated it. It was
Hated
awful.
it.
Try
The
again.
burning of 1,000 suns. And then all were like, it's great. It was fine.
All right, so I guess we should do a really quick. Do we need
Yeah, a little bit.
recap?
'Cause, yeah, it would make sense.
So recap goes here. Story recap. What's happened so far?
Just a few short weeks ago, he was living with the love of his life, or who he thought was the love of his life. Now here he was, one fucking day blurring into the next.
He hasn't responded to your emails, Esteban, so we have to confront him. Armand shifted, feeling suddenly protective of his possession. You're right. He thinks he's done no wrong. He's always the victim.
Raul is paging through his wedding album. His fingers trace Esteban's happy face as they dance together, cut cake together, and kiss. Every other fucking picture, they're kissing. When did they stop kissing? Why did they stop kissing? Is that why he left?
How could he be suing me? He's the one that was cheating. He left me for that fat, rich, limp dick asshole. And he kept the fucking dogs.
God, that was a good day. Esteban was so proud. I was so happy. I could do anything, everything at that moment. I wanted to rule the world and live forever. The feeling quickly faded. Raul sighed and slumped back. Cruel memories.
E, what's wrong? What happened? Oh my God, Raul. I'm so happy to hear from you. I'm so sorry for everything. Armand left me.
Okay, great.
Okay,
That made for a good recap. All right. So,
yeah.
do we have anything that we want to say before Janice takes over? Great. All
Nope.
right.
Yeah, seeing
Participation
that
on
Summer is
point.
literally muted, I'm gonna say no. I was like, "Ooh, the mute." She's like, "Nope, I'm ready to listen." Okay.
All right. Well, take
Okay.
it. Is this titled at all?
Yes. This is titled Of Gods and Monsters.
Ooh. All right. Take it away, Janice.
Why should I even care about this? Ral thought to himself for what felt like the millionth time as he sat in the cafe turning his coffee cup round and round in a nervous circle. He should have just hung up. Shouldn't have called to work things out. It was a moment of weakness, desperation to either get back what he'd lost or take what he could and escape fairly unscathed. But Esteban had been so distraught and couldn't tell him the whole story over the phone, so Raoul told him to meet here, at Raison d'Etre. It was Esteban's favorite place, one they came to when they were married and needed a place outside the house to vent or argue. Raoul had felt a sense of karmic justice in Armand having left Esteban. How does it feel being used and tossed aside like an old discarded condom? He'd almost shouted. But a part of him knew that wouldn't make him feel any better. Well, maybe a little bit better. Instead, he'd decided he wanted to hear the entire story, fill himself up with it until maybe it made him feel a bit more whole again. Or it choked him. Esteban wore large designer sunglasses that didn't hide the puffiness around his eyes and the red rawness of his nose, though his regular flamboyantly colored button-downs would distract most people from noticing anyway. Raoul had always hated those shirts, even when he'd said he loved them. Esteban held a lacy silk handkerchief in one hand as he slid dramatically into his chair with a half sigh, half sob. He was heavier than Raoul remembered, and looked as though he hadn't bathed in a while. The breeze that shifted the odor toward him confirmed his suspicions. God, E, you look like shit. Okay, that one just slipped out. And honestly, it did make him feel a teeny, tiny bit better. I am destroyed, Esteban said, and promptly began to weep into his kerchief. Now Raoul felt the twinge of heavy guilt. Placing a hand on his shoulder, Raoul sat there silently as the waiter dropped off a steaming cup. I got you your favorite, banana chai latte made with oat milk and 2 shots of espresso. Esteban cried harder. Come on, E, just take a deep breath. It can't be that bad. I mean, hell, I didn't even cry this hard when you left. Esteban's head snapped up. What? I didn't mean that I wasn't heartbroken. Esteban's hand went up. Darling, please stop trying to help. You're terrible at it. He pulled the cup closer to him, taking a sip. But thank you for the chai. Armand never seemed to remember how I liked it. A small burning twinge of jealousy stabbed Raoul in the chest. So, they'd come here too? How many times? Was it before or after Esteban decided he didn't want to be married to Raoul anymore? Raoul tried to tell himself it didn't matter, that he was past that and wanted to make some kind of reconciliation, but his thought wouldn't budge. How about you just tell me what happened? With a deep sigh, Esteban adjusted his sunglasses and spoke. It all started after we came to see you at the new place. No, we didn't go in or even ring the doorbell, he said at Raoul's surprised look. I think a part of me just wanted to see where you had ended up. If you had forgotten me and moved on to the next guy like you'd done in the past. I'm not saying it was right for me to leave or for me to have done all I did, but I just needed to know, to see for myself. And when I got there, an overwhelming sense of entitlement came over me. I didn't just want what I had, but I wanted everything you had too. Of course, it didn't take much encouragement for Armand to jump on board or to want to bleed you dry. Raul's jealousy began to shift to anger. This wasn't what he'd expected, nor was it something he wanted to hear. He knew it was good to know the truth, but the truth was pissing him off. He didn't know how he did it, but he remained silent as Esteban sipped his drink again and continued. After returning home, I began to have doubts. I didn't want to take anything else from you. For fuck's sake, I had already taken so much. So I begged Armand to reconsider, to drop the lawsuit. But he became obsessed and filed the petition for alimony on my behalf. I told him I would report him for fraud if he didn't stop. I guess that was the last straw. A week later, he had all his things taken out of the house. I discovered a little after that he had drained my bank account. It was then I discovered that that was how he'd gotten so rich, how he'd afforded the lifestyle he lived. I was left with nothing but the house and the dogs, and that was probably because he never liked them anyway. Raul had unknowingly offered his hand to Esteban across the table as the story unfolded. He'd always been the one to reach out and console him first, and Esteban had taken it. Raul felt the sting of that memory attach itself to his jealousy. Wait a minute. Maybe this was the perfect opportunity to be the rebound guy for Esteban, seduce him, pretend to help him, get back into a sexual relationship, and then leave him. The sexual satisfaction of having him one more time and then the cold revenge of moving on stirred inside him. But wait, his pride wouldn't let him do that. He was too good for that, above that nonsense. Allowing himself to be degraded while attempting to degrade his ex? He didn't want to be that guy. Better to pawn him off on someone else. A thought occurred to him. Wait, how did he have access to your account? Esteban dabbed his eyes. I don't know. I kept that account private and never left that information around. Honestly, I didn't even know he knew about it until it was emptied. Raul looked in his watery eyes and saw the sincerity there. He'd known about the account, and he also realized he'd never thought to tap into that money during the divorce. A wave of sympathy came over him, one that he hadn't felt in a long time. It's okay, E. We'll figure something out. Even though we still have a lot to talk through and sort out between us, I would never let you go through this alone. We can talk to Mike this week and see what we can do, okay? Esteban snorted with a grin. Mike? You're still friends with that guy? I thought once he'd done such a shitty job on our divorce that you would never speak to him again. Raul cracked a smile. Besides being the only lawyer I could afford at the time, he and I have known each other for ages. And he was the only one who seemed to care whether I was alive or dead. Esteban's smile faded. Raul, I am so sorry for everything. This time it was Raul's turn to hold up his hand. It's okay. Part of me is actually glad it happened. I don't think I would have learned what I needed to about myself and how to have a decent relationship if it all had been different. Raul was surprised at this confession. Only while he had been saying it had he realized how true it really was. A few pleasant moments of silence went by before Esteban whispered, Do you think we could try again? Raul looked at him, reaching for his hand again and giving it a squeeze. It's always worth a try. God, why didn't I learn how to tie a tie when my dad offered as a kid? Raul grumbled as he fidgeted with his bow tie in the mirror, or at least asked Esteban for a lesson. Now he was struggling with this ridiculous bow tie after having watched a quick tutorial that he still wasn't sure he understood. As he pictured the next step in his mind's eye, he looked into the mirror at the boxes stacked neatly in the corner of the room. He couldn't believe all that had happened. Sometimes it felt like a whirlwind, like his life was being led by an outside force or forces. What a difference a year makes, he thought, shaking his head. It's both a long and short time to heal. You think it'll take the blink of an eye and it stretches on and on and on. But when you look back, you realize it was a lot shorter than you could have fathomed. Now, looking forward to his future, he was full of a hope he'd never imagined. He'd had some of the lowest lows in this house, he thought as he looked around. Abruptly, a stack of books tumbled off a nearby shelf. Ah, yes. And then there was that. He had lived all this time in this house, and not so much as a rattle happened. But lately, strange things had started to take place. Just the other day, he had been in the kitchen cooking when a knife leapt out of its holder and lodged itself blade down into the floor. Not to mention the strange mood swings he was having that had him thinking maybe he was bipolar. He vaguely remembered some talk of ghosts or something like that.
It's rumored to have unwanted guests.
But there was never any real evidence of that. Regardless, he wasn't sure he was going to be alone here for much longer. He looked at the tie again in the mirror. It was a little crooked. Okay, a lot crooked, but it would have to do. Maybe someone could straighten it out before the ceremony. Checking his watch, Raul cursed softly. He was going to be late, and Esteban would kill him if he was late. Picking up the cream-colored boutonniere with a small sprig of baby's breath attached, he affixed it to his dark lapel. He ran his hands down the tuxedo he'd decided to purchase with his first check from the new job, the large incentive they'd thrown in to seal the deal and get him to sign on the dotted line. The suit fit well, and his body felt better than it had in ages. All that consistent workout time was finally paying dividends. He'd been sleeping better, too, though the noises and Esteban did keep him up most nights. Loosing a long breath, he reached for his wallet and keys from the dresser. The keys tinkled as they moved a foot to the right. Raul's hand remained hovering over the spot they had been. He reached for the keys again. This time, they flung themselves off the dresser and onto the floor, clattering noisily. I really don't have time for this, he shouted into the empty room. You want to fuck with me? Then please do it later. Oh, and after the reception. Because if you mess with that on top of me being later than I already am, Esteban will kill me, and I'll be joining you soon anyway. He bent down, scooping up the keys, feeling satisfied with his snarky quip as he rushed out the door. If Raul would have turned to look at himself one last time, he would have seen a single word scratched deeply into the mirror's surface. Agreed. Seriously, bitch, how are you this late and still a hot mess? Renowned drag queen and efficient extraordinaire Phil-ass drill her intercepted Raul as he rushed through the side door of the hall. Phyllis was dressed to the nines in her violet sequin mermaid gown, the matching enormous feathered hat tilted gloriously sideways on her pin-curled hair. Geez, Phyllis, you look spectacular. And I know. I was trying to hurry, but I'm still having trouble with all the Casper shit in my house. They just won't stop moving stuff and banging around. I was terrified the wedding planner would bolt from the house at any minute. Well, Raul, darling, we are on a strict schedule, she continued, fixing his bow tie until it was perfect. And you know what a bridezilla Esteban can be. He's already having hysterics. I know, he's been calling me every night asking me if he's making the right choice. I keep telling him yes, but he doesn't seem to believe me. Silas nodded sympathetically. All right, sugar, you're good to go. Show starts in 30 seconds. Raul knew where he needed to be. He'd gone through it with Esteban a million times, not to mention he'd already been part of Esteban's wedding schedule once. Finding his spot next to a few other people he vaguely knew, he smiled blandly at them, turning toward the closed hall doors in anticipation. 2 liveried, beautifully muscled men opened the doors to reveal a beaming Esteban and Mike. Raul still couldn't believe how they'd gotten together. After the whole Armand debacle, Mike was there to help Esteban pick up the pieces. Raul tried to be there as best he could, but he knew Esteban had needed some distance from him to figure things out, just as he'd needed that space from Esteban too. Offering Mike's attorney services was the least he could do. He wouldn't have imagined that they would have ended up here, giving his ex-husband away to his former attorney and best friend. But they'd asked him to be there, to be a part of this. And Raul discovered that, after searching his own feelings, he was more than happy to see them both find each other and a happy life they both deserved. He'd written as much in his toast, which he hoped would be a hit. After all, no one likes a cringy best man speech. As they smiled at the crowd and finally up at him, Raul felt a deep sense of pride. He'd made all this happen. He'd also volunteered his home for the reception. The backyard was unnaturally beautiful, and it was the least he could do before he put the house on the market. One last hurrah in the place that healed him the most. A stray thought of his skittering keys caressed Raul's mind. Whatever spectral beings were there, though annoying and at times frightening, wouldn't be a bother to him much longer. And with that reassurance, Raul refocused on the 2 men and their special day. "Oh, what an amazing selection of endless delight," exclaimed Gluttony, clapping her hands gleefully. "There are so many to choose from. Luckily, I don't have to choose." "On this," replied Lust, "we are in perfect agreement." Wrath watched all the humans coming and going through the house and out onto the large expanse of decorated lawn. Most of the invited meat sacks had circumvented the house and entered the garden from the side gate, much to Wrath's surprise and anger. But there were still some that came through the house, which allowed them all to have a bit of fun, planting seeds of various degrees of malice. They had discovered the containment spell was in the outer edges of the house, and Wrath, along with pride and envy, worked steadily for the past few months to counteract its potency. Finally, they were in a place that they could slip past the spells and have full access to their powers, if only for a little bit, before having to return to the house. Wrath raged at having to admit whoever had anchored them in place had done magnificent work. "Take as much as you can in," she instructed, placing a taloned finger against the small child's forehead. It wailed loudly to her utter delight. "We'll need it to completely break free of this particular magic." She'd also been able to detect its unique signature of conjuring. Well, Pride had discovered it, but Wrath didn't give a shit. All she gave a shit about was what she would do to the person once she laid her hands on them. They were all scattered throughout the house, each deadly one of them weaving whatever influence they could to strengthen themselves and wreak havoc in the lives of these pathetic creatures. It had worked out better than she'd imagined. And as she glided over to a pair of women who were discussing what one of them should do about her wife's infidelity, Wrath grinned a sharp-toothed grin of pleasure. Brief memory of being in this exact same spot, yelling about being sued for alimony, flitted through Raul's mind as he greeted each guest that passed him by. It was funny how life worked sometimes. All that rage and jealousy came briefly to the surface. He'd felt so wronged and betrayed and had never really done much in the way of revenge. Looking up at Mike and Esteban feeding each other pieces of cake, laughing as they lightly kissed, their mouths smeared with frosting, the feelings that had tried to weave their way around him evaporated. There was no need for that now. Esteban was a different person. Well, Raul was a different person. And this was a chance for him to start a new chapter in his life, set off in a new direction. His toast had been a hit. Everyone laughed and cried at all the right places, and he'd gotten a standing ovation at the end. Reaching for another glass of wine, he found his hand wrapped around a warm, slender one. "I'm so sorry," he began as he raised his head. He stopped short. A lovely pair of warm brown eyes met his. "No, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I mean, I shouldn't even be taking any of the wine in the first place. It's just being in this backyard is making me a little nervous. I thought it might take the edge off." Raul didn't remember seeing him at the ceremony, but he knew that most people would be more interested in the open bar and party than the actual ceremony. Besides, he liked his voice and his smile, and would have remembered him. Raul held the glass out to him. "And please take it to calm your nerves. We wouldn't want you to have a nervous breakdown or anything." Shit, he didn't even know what he was saying. But the man smiled his lovely smile and took the proffered drink. "Thanks." He took a sip while looking around as though scanning the crowd for someone. Raul hoped he was wrong. "So, are you a friend of Esteban or Mike?" "Oh, neither. I'm actually here with a friend." Oh, Raul knew what that was code for. He should have known a guy like this would be in some kind of situationship. He just felt such an instant connection with him, he hoped, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. "To be honest, we weren't officially invited." "Wait, there she is," he suddenly exclaimed, pointing to someone with long blonde hair in the crowd. He waved her over. "Shit, you went straight." Well, apparently it just went from bad to worse. "Well, this is a private event, and if you guys weren't invited, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. As the owner of this house, I'm not okay with wedding crashers." No, you've got it all wrong. "Mr. Bennett, I didn't realize you would have company." The woman looked exactly as he remembered her, even down to the blazer she wore. "I thought I would stop by after your cryptic email a few days ago regarding the place, but apparently I walked into a celebration." "Yeah, it's not really a good time to talk at the moment," the man said chidingly, burying his face in the glass and finishing his wine in one large gulp. "We should go and come back another time when Mr. Bennett isn't busy." Raul's heart gave a leap. "No, wait. Please stay. Enjoy yourselves. There's more than enough to go around." Raul faced the man with a smile. He had a good feeling about him. He extended his hand, and the name is Raul. The man gazed back at him with interest. Electricity crackled between them, along with the heat of something more, as the man placed his warm hand in Raul's and shook it, and didn't let go. What a lovely name. Pleasure to meet you, Raul. I'm Mark.
Girl.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kevin and I are totally psychic. I'm just saying. Also, something ship is my new favorite word ever.
That
Which
was
one?
really great.
Something ship. He had to be in a something ship.
Yes.
That was great.
Oh,
Wow.
What a great way to tie every
Yay.
single thing up.
It's a little uncomfortable being in the backyard, I guess.
yeah. He's like, I don't know how long those are going to hold, so I want to head out.
Right.
When they find out that it's me, I'm going to die. So, yeah.
Man, Janice, that was really
Yeah.
good.
You like that I used my main character energy mug.
Yeah.
I was like, Raul is the main character at this time.
There you go. That was really good. I think that I think you did. That was a good wrap up. I think. Yeah.
I agree.
Well done, Janice. Well done for
Thank
bringing it
you.
home.
Yay. I was like, we explored the deadly sins so well, but then I was like, well, the story needs to end about him, about having healed him
Hmm. Yeah.
unintentionally. Wrath did what she set out to do, and she had this smorgasbord of people to gain her energy to, recapture the place. And, he was already like, I'm out, like, forget this house. Or just tried to kill me with a knife this week.
No,
Yeah.
that I really, really enjoyed that part of it. Like how it was clear he knew what was going on and that he had worked. I mean, maybe even it was just subconscious, but there was some kind of an arrangement in place where he put up with all their shenanigans, but not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah,
Be on your
and
best behavior.
I was under the impression that they had finally kind of reached a peace. Like he's like, I know you're there. You know I'm here. We're all gonna kind of do our own thing. And like every once in a while they'd flare up like with the knife or fuck with him like with the keys. But he's just like, whatever, guys.
Yeah.
It's what it is,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they had this understanding. That's what I was looking for. Like they had reached some sort of mutual understanding. I don't necessarily think he knew who they were, just that they existed.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of speaks well to like the nature of humanity, where when all of the sins are powered up and in like that equal pressure all the way around, it's almost like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
get your act together. It's really only when they're in an imbalance
Right.
that it feels like you're really being pulled one way or the other, So
Right.
I felt that was really that was really neat. Nice way of framing that at the end there.
Awesome. I also wanted to get them I didn't want Esteban to come to the house because I wanted Raul to feel some of the virtues instead of the deadly sins. So things like sympathy and all of those kinds of things, he wouldn't have been able to feel them within the house. And so to see how dramatically different it is being in that house versus not being in the house and being able to feel a balance in that, like, hey, I can be understanding. I can be, all of these things that even though he was working through them in the house in the previous episode where he was just like, hey, I'm going to reach out and see, he pushed through all of that. It was like they couldn't really hold him if he was in another place completely.
Right.
And be able to kind of have a clear head about what he wanted or didn't want to do next.
Right.
And I didn't want them to get remarried or get back together because I was like, emotional damage. There's been too much of it.
Yeah.
That's so
Well,
funny
it's
because
like-
as soon as you had that, as soon as the reveal, air quotes, of him being the best man, not the groom, I immediately was chatting with Summer privately. It's like you called it. Because before you and Dee got on the call, she was talking to me about how she well, I don't want to speak for you, Summer's right here. Let's not talk about it like you're not in the room.
Well, what she said was that she thought,
Yeah.
I said, I bet with Janice writing the story, they're not going to end up together. But I had suspected that if Kevin had ended the story, they might have. And so Kevin was like contemplating that when you guys jumped on. He was trying to decide whether he's like, I don't know. He was thinking about it.
So that was funny. That I was like, oh, you called it. There.
She's like, yeah, Janice has the darkness.
Well,
Something has to
I-
happen.
I'm not considered dark, but they would definitely not have ended up together if I had written it either. Because
Yeah.
I'm personally one of those people that, oh, I wasn't good enough for you the first time. Well, then you never get me. Like
There you
that's
go.
I'm sorry. If you were, I'm sorry. I am worth way
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that they became such different people that there was no
Yeah,
way
and there
they
was
were
an
going to be able
evolution
to.
for-
Yeah.
So
He had grown up. He had learned how to be a completely different person. So trying to go back to Esteban just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
You know,
Even if
they
Esteban was the same person, even if there was no growth, well, actually, I would almost say a devolution, not really any growth. It felt to
mm,
me the way that you described him, like he almost slipped backwards in his
mhm,
relationship development. But Raul absolutely grew.
mhm.
So yeah, I
And
agree.
so they were
I
in such different places. There was no way.
Yeah.
I do have to say that I like how the character I wrote was like the catalyst of them breaking up. That of Esteban and
And Armand.
Armand breaking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, greed got on in there and
Yeah.
took
Creed was like,
hold
it
and
was all me. That's right.
Lasting effect. And
Yeah,
well, I
just
mean,
planted those little seeds. Yep.
yeah, as a callback to that, you really did though, to your credit, D, you really did set that up very, very
Oh,
well with all of the
beautifully.
introduction of what was his face? Esteban, right? No, no, not
Yeah.
Esteban.
Armand.
Armand.
Armand, yeah. The
Yeah.
the way that you introduced Armand really laid that a very solid foundation for that because it absolutely typified exactly the kind of person that Greed would be like, yep, you my homie.
Yes,
Yep.
that
Yeah.
it would take hold
Yep.
and flourish and
Yes.
you know.
And Greed would be bedazzled and bedecked and bejeweled. And everybody's like, wait, where did those come? Never mind. We don't want to
Never mind.
know. She's like, mind your business. I have a crown. She has like a big tiara and like all these dripping.
It's like that old
Dang.
cartoon with Daffy Duck and mine, 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 down, 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 back, back, back.
Down, down, down. No, no, no.
I'd like to say that I appreciate Raul's self-discipline in not saying something along the lines of, why did you ever think that guy would like you? Because I would have been bitter as fuck and been like, see, this is what you get when you have someone like that who you think is falling for you because you're old and washed up, and that guy.
I tried so
Yum.
hard to not make him petty because it's hard. Let me tell you, the pettiness comes out when you're writing this. Like it's just like so
Wrath
many
gets
ways
her to be
fingers
in
petty.
there, and you're like,
Right?
Yeah. But that was
the only thing I
that was
wanna
the other
say.
thing. Because boy, if they would have had this conversation at the house, it would have gone so different. He might
Right?
have been buried in the backyard. I don't know. You know,
Wrath
it would have
knows.
been like, yeah, there was so much, and you can't really tie up the deadly sins, you know, because the deadly sins do the things that they do,
Right.
you know, like, and it's eternal. It's not something that instantly gets fixed or anything like that. It's like they're in perpetual motion. So no matter how many times you try to stop them or move them or, you know, they continually survive. That's what they do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so I
and with
didn't want to
the
like,
humans,
yeah,
One
Yeah.
other detail
Humans.
that oh, sorry, go ahead, Dee.
with humans who are, consistently in a state of cognitive dissonance, like they flourish because they're never put in check because
Right?
yeah, yeah.
they give you the things you want or
Exactly.
the things you desire or whatever it is.
Right.
But
So
Yeah,
the other detail that I love, Janice, is that you brought back in the reason for him cleaning up his backyard is because now they had a party in it. I was like, good, he did all the gardening for a reason.
Yeah, when I reread, because I reread that part and I was like, oh, he did obsessive gardening. Now that it's like ridiculously beautiful. And then of course you have things like pride and lust and all of these deadly sins that are going to make it even more beautiful. That's why I said unnaturally beautiful, because it was like
Mhm.
his obsession made it fed into the deadly sins to allow it to become this like preternatural beauty out there that he was just like, hey, why don't I just offer it? It's all, it's that, wow, it's unusually beauty. He's got a guy too. Let's remember that guys don't always process those things like, hey, it's beautiful. Let's hold the reception here. It's not like, oh, hey, this is beautiful. Maybe there are some things at work that are,
I wasn't going to say anything, but since you brought it up, so like the reason that I had him get obsessed about the gardening was that it was the vehicle Pride was trying to use to get him to disrupt the wards that were outside, that were
Mm,
buried outside. that was the motivation there, was like get him to be obsessed with yard work so that through his yard work he will disrupt the wards on his own and lower the dampening that
Mm.
they're suffering
Right.
under.
And so one of my questions would be, how did you feel about the reveal for Mark?
I thought it was fine. I didn't. So that was another
Okay.
chatting with
I know.
Summer.
You're like,
Yeah.
it was fine.
That was another like sidebar that I had with Summer as you were
Yeah.
talking, because at first it was just whatever. He's some cute guy at the reception, but as soon as he said that he wasn't with anybody, I was like, oh, clackety 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 clack. It's Mark.
As soon as you said the blonde came over, I was like, oh, it's a real estate agent.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So I think that
Well,
I
just
think
so
that
you know, I was
cool.
clueless. I was like, who are they? Oh.
Aw.
They're like, oh, he's straight. Poor thing. Okay.
Oh, is his wife? Oh, like that.
He's clearly in a something ship.
A something ship.
Yes.
Yes.
A something ship,
No, I liked it. I
something.
thought that
He
was
doesn't know
cool.
what it is.
I thought that was cool, and I appreciated the like the trepidation that he was like. Clearly, he was uneasy, and at first, of course, as an uninvited guest to a wedding reception, the assumption there is, oh, he's uncomfortable because he's a wedding crasher. He shouldn't be here.
Right.
But once you know that it's Mark, even though you don't elaborate on it, that it's like, oh, well, he's uncomfortable for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And you did a nice job with some of the red herrings. Is that what they're called? Like,
Mm.
where you were like, Esteban keeps me up at night, and then later you find out it's because he was on the phone with him all night long. There was some nice throwaway lines there that sort of misdirected people.
Yes. Agreed.
Good. That was what I was hoping. I was like, I hope they don't see through that and they're like, oh, that misdirection did not work on me.
Well, what I really appreciate about that type of where you think something is going to happen and then it's something else that actually happens, I like it when you can look back through the story
I do
or
too.
through the movie or whatever and
Agreed.
see, oh, here are all the points where I
Yeah.
misinterpreted, but I can see how it led up to this ending. I
Yep.
really hate it when it just is a complete 180. Who is this character that was never in anything this whole entire
Yeah.
time? And they're the answer and solution to all the problems.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
So I really like, I like it when
Yeah,
that.
it's one of the
Good
things
job.
I liked about The Sixth Sense is when you watch it, if you don't know what's happening in the end, it's one movie, and when you watch it knowing what's happening in the end, it all still holds up.
Right.
No spoilers.
That's
Oh, and the Titanic
Past
sinks.
the span.
yeah.
Past the time. Sorry if you haven't seen it.
Well, womp womp. No, but that's how I love to do my writing anyway. Like when I'm writing books or when I'm writing a story outside of written something.
You're
Because-
cheating on us?
Seeing other stories, I'm sick. I can't just live with one story.
Oh my
That's-
gosh.
I need all of them.
You're such
So
an
you're in a
Esteban.
writing something ship. I see. Okay.
Yes.
She's
I am in a writing
polystorious.
something. That's,
Polystorious.
that's one of my favorite things to do is to hint at things as I go, because part of how I do it, and of course you can hear this from my interview with Kevin, where I talk about, I like writing the ending first. And doing foreshadowing without people realizing it's foreshadowing is one of my favorite things to do, because then your story doesn't just need one read. Then people go back and go, wait a minute. Let me go
Yeah.
back and listen to that, or let me go back and
Mhm.
read that. And now
Yeah.
it makes a different kind of sense. And so
Yes.
that's my favorite thing to read. And it's also one of my favorite things to write. So I'm glad
Well, you
I
did a
heard.
good job.
Thank you. So how do we feel about the story being all wrapped up? Do we feel like that was a good way to wrap it up?
Yeah,
Do we
I think
feel
so.
like it's completed? I guess I should ask.
Can't think of anything that wasn't covered.
Agreed.
So season 1 is in the bag.
We are awesome.
Woo woo. That
Wow.
match was the longest match.
You got the long match instead of the short straw, right?
Yes, nice.
We will have to converse offline about what season 2 holds. Stay tuned.
Yes.
Yeah.
The match
have
for
a-
season 1 is officially extinguished.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
All right. So
That was
I
very
guess
dramatic.
follow us on. I don't know. Should we? I don't know what. Stay tuned for more thrilling adventures.
Say it with passion there, Kevin.
I mean, do
I
we
know.
have any social media, as they say?
We do. We've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I got all
Oh.
of them.
Don't forget Pinterest and LinkedIn.
Ugh, Pinterest.
Yes.
Not social. Nope. Written Together is not into vision boarding.
What? We don't want like the Deadly Sin aesthetic Pinterest board? And Raul, when he goes from what to wow?
See, now that actually might be interesting. If somebody wants to do like create a Raul Pinterest under Raul's name and then be like, here's when I'm redecorating, or here's when I
Here's
was
my
under
dream garden.
my dream garden. That actually might be kind of a whoa, augmented
That is
reality kind of
okay.
thing. You know, little augmented reality tie-in.
But I think what would be a really great idea would also be for season 2 to have a little more of a presence on a social media platform. Not necessarily every social media platform, but maybe a couple of them, just to anticipate. Not it.
You're late.
That's fine. I don't mind doing the Pinterest and Instagram. That is totally fine with me. I don't know how to do the TikTok, but I feel like having people like kind of anticipate of
Right.
what the next season will be.
We should absolutely get together and talk about that separately. We can do like a whole other episode 0 for season 2 where we talk about that ramping up. Of course, once we do have something selected and everything, like we had for this season. Great. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Janice. Again, that was really great. And thank
My
you,
pleasure.
Summer and Dee, for being part of all of this and for all of your writing and conversation.
And you
This
as
has
well,
been a lot of
Kevin.
fun.
Yeah,
been a lot
thank
of
you,
fun.
Kevin,
Yes.
for doing all the things. Because he really does do all
All the things. Yeah,
He really does.
it's a fact.
We just get to show up and, pretend we know what we're doing.
Okay, so great. Well, hey, like Dee said a little while ago, match extinguished, right?
Season 1's match.
and dump water and sand on the fire because we're done. Time to go to
Right.
bed, campers. Time to
That's
go to
it.
bed. We'll see you in the morning. Bye.
Nighty night.
Bye. Have a good
Bye.
night.
Background music and sound effects courtesy of Zapsplat. Check him out at zapsplat.com. If you'd like to know more about Written Together and the stories we've told, visit us at writtentogether.com.